All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're exploring a pretty radical idea. What if the actual stuff our money is made of, its physical weight, its resonance, could literally transform conflict into peace? We're not just talking about finance here, we're talking about a kind of alchemy in how we deal with each other.
This right here is the core principle of everything we're looking at today. It's a simple but really profound claim. You change the asset you're using, and you can change someone's mind, which in turn completely changes the final outcome. So let's see how this is supposed to work. And this quote, well, it gets right to the heart of the problem. The argument is that fiat currency is, and I'm quoting here, vibrationally weak. So what does that even mean? It means it's basically a promise, an IOU, that's constantly losing value. And that instability, the idea goes, doesn't just sit on a spreadsheet. It actually seeps into our negotiations, creating distrust before we even start talking. Okay, so our first section is called the alchemical contrast. This is where we're going to break down the two completely different types of money at the center of this whole idea, one that supposedly creates arguments and another that's said to create peace. So the difference is pretty straightforward, but it's absolutely critical. Tier 1 assets are what the source calls sound money. You know, physical, tangible things like gold and silver that you can actually hold in your hand. Then you've got Tier 2 assets, which is our fiat currency. The numbers on a screen, the paper in our wallets, they're essentially just IOUs from a government, promises that can, and definitely do, change in value over time. All right, so let's put this theory into practice. In this next section, Two Worlds of Settlement, we're going to walk through three very common, very real conflict scenarios to see how using Tier 1 versus Tier 2 assets can supposedly lead to wildly different results. So let's start with something we can all relate to, a personal debt. The source claims that if you offer to pay someone with a check, you're immediately signaling, hey, there could be delays, there could be problems. But if you offer a notarized, insured silver note, a real legal document backed by physical silver, you're signaling something totally different. You're signaling seriousness, you're signaling honor. The claim is that this one simple switch can completely de-escalate the entire situation. And this same principle is said to apply to business disputes. A negotiation in fiat dollars is framed as a battle. Lawyers get involved, costs spiral out of control, and relationships get destroyed. But an offer made in physical silver? Well, that's presented as a way to just neutralize the threat. It's meant to communicate respect and seriousness, turning enemies into partners. This concept even stretches to the most emotional situations you can imagine, like a family inheritance. The argument is that trying to divide up digital money and bank accounts can trigger this feeling of scarcity and just tear families apart. But distributing physical assets, like silver bars, is said to project an energy of permanence and fairness, and that can actually calm everyone down and create an environment for healing instead of hostility. So you might be wondering, okay, this sounds interesting, but how in the world does this actually work in the real world? Well, this isn't just a philosophy. The source material lays out a specific legal and technical system designed to make these sound money settlements a reality. Now, the key human in this whole system is someone called a civil law notary. And let's be clear, this is not the person at the bank who just stamps documents. Not even close. This is a highly trained legal expert who actually structures the deal and is personally liable for its integrity. They act as a kind of human sovereign node, a trusted, independent authority making sure what you intend to do is exactly what happens. And here's the flow of how it works. First, the civil law notary verifies all the facts and the intent of everyone involved. Second, a special hybrid smart legal contract is created. And finally, something called a tokenized trust receipt, or a TTR, is issued. And as we're about to see, this TTR isn't the money itself, it's just proof that the whole process was done correctly. Right, and this is a really important distinction. The TTRA is just a digital pointer. Think of it like a digital claim check. It's a non-transferable token that proves a legally verified action happened. Its entire job is to anchor trust so that the actual settlement with a physical asset like silver can happen with total confidence anywhere in the world. Okay, so we've covered the technical how. Now we're going to pivot to the metaphysical why. The source material goes a lot deeper, suggesting there's a physical, maybe even spiritual reason that sound money is claimed to have such a different effect on our psychology. And that brings us to the million-dollar question, right? What is it about a physical chunk of silver that supposedly changes our entire mental and emotional state during a conflict? Well, according to the source, it all starts with its physical properties.
Unlike a number on a screen, silver has weight, it has volume, and when you strike two pieces together, they create a very specific tone, a frequency. And get this source material claims this frequency has actually been measured. The resonant frequency of pure silver is said to be somewhere between 720 and 800 hertz. The whole argument is that this specific tone has a direct calming effect on the human brain and our nervous system. And this is where we go even deeper. The sources attribute several, let's call them esoteric properties to silver. It's described as a conductor that clears energetic static, that it activates fluids in the body, and even that it aligns with higher chakras. The ultimate claim here is that this vibrational shift literally moves a person out of a fight or flight state and into one of trust and cooperation. So, all of this brings us to our final section, the sovereign mindset, because the ultimate goal here isn't just to change how we settle arguments, it's to fundamentally change how we think about value itself. The source material presents us with a really clear choice here. On the one hand, there's the price-sensitive mindset, which is obsessed with the fluctuating dollar value of something. On the other hand, there's the value-centric or sovereign mindset, which basically ignores the price and just focuses on accumulating more weight, more ounces of a real physical asset. So when you boil it all down, sound money is presented as something much more than just a financial tool. It's framed as a form of psychological technology, a tool specifically designed to change our behavior by changing the very frequency of our financial interactions. And this brings us full circle. The real alchemy, according to this worldview, was never about turning lead into gold. It's about an internal transformation, about turning a confused, scarcity-driven mind into a sovereign, value-centric one. Which leaves all of us with a final, pretty provocative question. If this whole premise is true, that the very substance we use to exchange value can alter our consciousness and our relationships, then what kind of reality will you choose to build with your next transaction?